Oh, thank goodness.
Yes.
Hi, YouTube.
Hello, YouTube. You ready?
Yes.
Are you ready, YouTube?
Mm-hmm.
Give us some feedback.
Yeah.
This list sucks. This list sucks. This list sucks. This list sucks. It sucks.
Yoo-hoo!
Welcome back to This List Sucks.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday indeed. I'm JB.
I'm Mike.
Special guest in the house. Not
Mhm.
literally in the house.
No,
In
far
the
away
virtual
from the
house.
Yeah.
Yes.
Super far away.
How far away?
Portland house.
Portland in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Aiden, welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
So Aiden is on the show tonight in lieu of Genevieve, my wife, because both of these women are deeply into Tori Amos. And so we're getting this is the second
And
Tori,
Sabbath.
This is the second Tori Amos, right?
First.
It is the first.
Yeah. You think the first of multiple or the only?
That'll be an interesting conversation to have with Aiden, but I think it almost has to be two.
Okay.
I think it has to be two, maybe even three.
Wow.
That would be interesting because we also haven't gotten to our first Kate Bush record, which I also want to talk about in relation to the Tori Amos record this week because I find that fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
But welcome, Aiden.
Thank you. I'm excited to talk about all of these things, especially my disdain for Black Sabbath.
And I don't even want to.
By disdain, do you mean undying love?
They were the beginning of an amazing genre of music, but Ozzy Osbourne, he's good where he's at now.
Still singing?
Geriatrically singing well.
Yeah, forgetting he can sing still, but speaking is a whole nother task that he is not up to these days.
No, not at all.
He would not be a good guest.
Any good new music?
I didn't listen to anything new really. Well, no, I don't think so. I was trying to think. I feel like I did something, but it's not remembering it right now.
I listened to like 2 songs on the new Tears for Fears record.
Wow, I didn't even know there was a new Tears for Fears one. Did that just come out?
It did just come out, I think last Friday.
Any good?
I mean, if you're into Tears for Fears, yeah. It actually is pretty good music for Tears for Fears. I also watched this kind of fascinating little like I don't know what you would call it, like an interview segment on that TV show that they play for 90-year-olds on CBS every Sunday morning. It's literally called CBS Sunday Morning. And I'm pretty sure they just make it for septa, octa, and nonagenarians. But I watch it and enjoy it regularly. And they did this whole thing on Tears for Fears. The 2 dudes from it, how they got pissed off and broke up in like the late 80s. And then they got back together and now they make happy, sad music again.
Good.
Yeah.
The Tipping Point. I'm looking at it right now. So
it's not bad. I mean,
yeah, good.
It's good for Tears for Fears.
It's got an 85 on Metacritic.
It's fucking Metacritics. Those guys are morons.
There's a new Robert Glasper album. Do you remember me mentioning him on the podcast quite a while ago? Maybe even once or twice at this point. Have you heard of him?
That once or twice that you mentioned him on the podcast.
Yeah, that once or twice.
No.
He's incredible. You should check him out. He's he's a piano player and he makes like neo soul music. You know, but it's like very jazzy, like pretty virtuosic. It's very good.
Like St. Paul and the Broken Bones kind of neo soul.
Much more like heady, you know, much more, yeah.
Really?
Like complicated, but very good.
Okay.
Jazzier than like the jazzy side of neo soul.
Okay. I like that. I can get down with that.
And
I'll check it out.
I'm just now seeing that he put out a new one and I haven't heard it, but I'm sure it's good.
I don't think we've talked about it on the podcast, but friend of the show, Lee Stamper, is all kinds of in love with the fact, and I am too, for the record, that John Frusciante is back,
back.
with Red Hot Chili Peppers, and Unlimited Love is coming out. Maybe never. I don't know, but they released the list of songs, which is kind of fun too on here.
I did hear the new song. Did you hear it?
Yeah, that Black Summer song.
It was good.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell almost instantly that John Frusciante's back with them,
Mm-hmm.
which is nice because his guitar tone is so unique, and it's the best Chili Peppers.
The best version for sure.
Yeah,
Not Navarro. You're not a Navarro guy.
I mean, no,
me neither. I was joking.
Yeah. And I wasn't really much of a Josh Klinghoffer guy either, because he seemed like he just really wanted to be John Frusciante.
He's in another band, right?
I mean, I'm sure he is now. He's not a bad guitar player. He was just a guitar player trying to play John Frusciante guitar parts. And that's an unfortunate thing, because it doesn't always work out for anybody except for John Frusciante mostly.
He's a current touring member of Pearl Jam.
Weird, really.
Josh Klinghoffer. Yeah.
How many guitar players do they got to have in Pearl Jam nowadays? Because doesn't Eddie Vedder play guitar with them on stage?
Yeah, he probably does.
Are they doing a quad guitar?
He's actually muted in the mix, and Josh Klinghoffer just plays all the parts that Eddie Vedder pretends to play. He does the guitar faces too. So
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Outsourced. Yep.
Records. Since we did the podcast last, I was kind of bragging to JB that I scored Here My Dear from Marvin Gaye on vinyl.
Indeed.
Been looking for that for a hella long time, and I found it down at the Saturday. I'm super excited about that. And I was looking for some other new records. I was looking for Masters of Reality, in fact, and I couldn't find it. Got fucking shut out on that.
Do you have Paranoid? Remind me, we talked about that, but I can't remember what.
No,
what
I don't
said.
have Paranoid.
Yeah,
yet.
I don't have any Sabbath.
Yeah, I do have the self-titled, because I picked up the self-titled after we ran across it on the list, and I also picked up Nativity in Black, which was like a mid-90s cover album of Black Sabbath covers, but they're done by like Biohazard, and I think Sepultura does one, and Megadeth does one, and White Zombie does. Dude, White Zombie does Biohazard does Forever or After Forever.
From Master of Reality.
Yeah, Jesus. And White Zombie does Children of the Grave off Masters of Reality. Yeah, Bruce Dickinson and a band, some backing band does Lord of this World. There's really, really good stuff. And it's loaded with tracks from Masters of Reality on it.
Nice.
Yep.
I love it. I'll have to check that one out, but not aware of it until just now.
I'll give it to you on vinyl. It's so good.
Sweet.
How about you? Anything good for you?
No new vinyls or anything. Yeah, just been playing a bunch of gigs,
Gigging,
which is cool, but not really focusing on any new music at the current time.
just got to make it, dude.
Yeah.
You just got to make it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well,
What do you think? Should we get into it?
Do you want to talk about this shit, Aiden?
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah.
Good.
Okay. So again, for those walking off the street unaware, we are going down Rolling Stone's list of the 500 greatest albums of all time, released in 2020, 2020,
2020. Yeah, 2020. September of 2020.
Indeed. And we've made it all the way to the top half. And here we are at number 235 today.
Climbing our way to the summit of Mount Shit.
Seriously.
Yes. 235 is Metallica, the Black Album, self-titled, from 91. After a decade of breaking metal's speed limits, that sounded weird for some reason. Breaking metal speed limits, Metallica pared down their sound to the bare bones for their self-titled Black Album. Enter Sandman became a blockbuster because listeners finally had the space to sing along with James Hetfield's Bleak Visions. Metallica achieved maximum heaviness on Sad But True by letting their guitars ring out for once. They embraced cinematic melodrama on The Unforgiven and Wherever I May Roam, and showed unusual depth for a band named Metallica with the sincere, no bullshit ballad, Nothing Else Matters.
Oh,
Yeah. He wrote that about his girlfriend, I think, right?
yes.
Yeah, I was reading about that.
or so the notes say. Okay. So the Black Album is the album that brought me back to metal.
Like when it came out?
Yep.
Because you had taken a break from the metal.
I'd been on like a 3.5 year hiatus into West Coast gangster rap. I went straight from like Motley Crue and Def Leppard and Guns N' Roses, like Appetite for Destruction, Guns N' Roses, mind you, into West Coast. West
It's a
Coast
logical
gangster rap.
segue.
Yeah. And I hung out in this nether, like, it was actually this fantastical vacation that I was taking into hip hop. And then when the Black Album came out, yeah, I bought the Black Album and I was like, Jesus, metal's really fucking cool again. And then I got back into metal. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Metallica, for that.
Yeah. It was listen, this album was fucking great and it was impossible to avoid. Like when this album came out, it was absolutely impossible to avoid.
It was all over the place.
Yeah. And Metallica had kind of gotten known because they made a really cool video for One off of And Justice for All. And that video was super dope and it was really cinematic. And that song was, I think One was digestible by a more mass audience because it had kind of the slow part before it went back into like the thrash roots, of Metallica. And so everybody was ready for this. And when this came out,
they were primed.
Yeah.
And they just ate it up, huh?
And it was fucking crazy.
So Metallica wasn't like big before this? I mean, in terms of, they weren't like a household name, you wouldn't say?
No.
It's kind of weird for me to wrap my head around because I was born the year this album came out. And, you know, like Metallica has just been kind of something that everybody knew about as long as I remember, you know?
Yes. Yep.
Like considered, I mean, obviously not like pioneers, but pioneers of kind of their brand of metal, which definitely spawned a whole nother wave.
Yeah. Yeah. But before this, they were kind of relegated to the same depths of like Megadeth and Slayer. Like they were a thrash metal act.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And this was fucking the #1 video on MTV.
Wow.
A dumb little kid trying to outrun a semi truck. Fucking moron.
For Enter Sandman?
Yeah.
Haven't seen it.
And then the semi truck smashes into his bed. Bed blows up. Oh my goodness, that kid couldn't sleep because that goddamn runaway pickup truck.
It's a good reason.
No, it wasn't. It was a fucking terrible reason. It was a dumb
shitty video.
I mean,
I don't need to watch it now.
I mean, you can watch it. There's just not much there for you.
Yeah, that's okay.
Aiden, what do you say?
I loved the Black Album. It was my introduction, I think, into this type of metal. I was like listening to this album in preparation for this episode, and when Wherever I May Roam came on, I had this like intense flashback to sitting in the backseat of my mom's car listening to that song on repeat playing Super Mario Bros. And like it was one of my like favorite songs off of that album next to Enter Sandman. I really enjoyed that entire album. I listened to it over and over and over again whenever I was in middle school, and it really helped introduce me to like the beginnings of metal. And growing up, getting that kind of exposure led me into like my love for metal now. So I listen to all different types of metal, but this was definitely like this album was part of my introduction to metal.
It's a super good gateway drug.
It is.
It definitely was. All of it, the whole thing from cover to cover is just, it's so good.
Mm-hmm. And I'm right there with you. I love Wherever I May Roam. That was like that, and Enter Sandman were my two highest, rated songs on this for sure.
Really?
Yeah.
I love that one.
Tell me this, like both of you guys, because both of you guys love Enter Sandman so much. Why?
Enter Sandman, I gave 5 stars, and I mean, I do love the song, but it's almost like one of those songs that you just give 5 stars because it's like a no-brainer 5-star song. It's like that is one of the most classic guitar riffs at this point. Like that's one of the first ones people learn when they pick up a guitar. It's like a house. Like I said, it's like a fucking household thing at this point. Everybody knows Enter Sandman.
Wow.
It's probably one of the biggest metal songs. It's like like they said, blockbuster.
I
Yeah.
could not,
You don't like Enter Sandman? Go ahead, Irene.
no, I couldn't agree more with that. It's one of those staple songs. Like if you listen to metal, like that was probably one of the first songs you ever listened to. And
For sure.
I'm
And
sorry,
even
what?
if you don't, like even if you don't, that song.
Yeah.
Right. Everyone knows the song.
Yeah, and that's fine. But I don't know, like to me, Sad But True is a better song.
And that, yeah, I gave that one 4 stars. And that's what I really like that probably across on this podcast where it's just, you know what I mean? Like, obviously this is going to be a 5-star song. Everybody thinks that. Might as well just fucking write it down.
Well, I'm edgy as fuck then, son.
Rebel.
Rever Emmy Rome, I put 5 stars next to that. I put 4 stars next to Unforgiven because I love that.
How many stars did you put on Enter Sandman?
2.
2 stars on Enter Sandman?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's not even me being edgy. Like, it's just not my favorite song. Part of that is for the same reason why I didn't put 5 stars next to Watermelon Sugar. Guess what? Watermelon Sugar is a fine song.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody loves that fucking song. But for me, after I heard it for the 4,000th time, like it just lost some of its luster.
Yeah.
And
that's probably how you feel about Enter Sandman.
And
too.
Enter Sandman's not like that for me. But again, I love did Rolling Stone use did they call it cinematic storytelling in Wherever I May Roam? Something along those lines, right?
Cinematic melodrama.
Yeah. That's so I love what he does with the lyrical imagery in Sad But True. I love what he does with it in Unforgiven. Even Don't Tread on Me, which I didn't respect a whole lot. Like when I was a kid, I thought that was a fucking dumb song. I actually really like it now because the lyrics make a lot of sense, like relative to what he's doing. But this whole fucking record,
I like the low death metal-y type growls that Hetfield was doing on Don't Tread on Me. I feel like there wasn't a whole lot of that on this one. And you still do get some of the thrash roots that they had. I mean, that last song, Struggle Within, that's pretty much like a old school Metallica song, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. And that's exactly what I wrote in there, was that was more of like that kind of old school thrash type feel. But the song right before that, you get this ridiculously well-written bass line from Jason Newsted on My Friend of Misery that is just fucking, it's haunting.
That's what I wrote
really
too.
Good, dude. Like it's so good. And that's where I understand what everybody's saying about Enter Sandman, and I wouldn't take anything away from it because it's like a really, listen, it's a song that, it took metal onto Billboard, right?
Yeah.
So I'm never going to denigrate it, but when I compare it to everything else across the rest of this record, there's a lot more that I'm going to take before it.
Sad But True is a fantastic song, like you were saying.
Those are my 2 5 stars. Wherever I May Roam and Sad But True are my 2 5-star songs.
I did give that one a 4-star, but yeah, I mean, it might as well. It's the same thing. What do you think about the guitar players in that, one versus the other? Which one sticks out to you more? Because I mean, I feel like everybody always praises Hammett so much, but I'm honestly more of a fan of Hetfield's rhythm playing on a lot of these songs, the low riffs that he does and stuff.
Yeah,
that makes Metallica for me. To me, the lead guitar playing is just, it's good, but it's definitely not something that I look forward to when I listen to Metallica. I'm much more about the riffs,
I don't know. There's something that's uber classic metal about Kirk Hammett. Kirk Hammett has the same thing that I love about Randy Rhoads. If you listen to those first 2 solo Ozzy records, which Aiden will never listen to a day in her life, which that's fine. I can totally live with that. But if you listen to the way that Randy plays guitar, I feel like Kirk Hammett has a little bit of that kind of classical, I don't know. There's this weird I think they call it neoclassicism that metal guitarists went through.
Yngwie Malmsteen.
Yeah, but I think Hammett has a little bit of that, but it's just dirty enough that I don't know. It's weird because you shouldn't ever think about Metallica and virtuosic playing, but sometimes he plays solos where you're just like, wow, man, that was like beautifully intricate. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So I have an appreciation for him.
I hear you. I just think that there's better versions of that, you know, like
For sure.
Yngwie
Yeah.
Malmsteen being probably the go-to. He's like the, you know, the gold standard of the neoclassical metal shredder kind of player.
Yeah. Steve Vai too.
Steve Vai, yeah, Satriani, those
Mhm.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I dig it though.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you, Aiden? And I don't know what you think in terms of trying to name placement of like where you would put this on a list of the greatest 500 albums of all time. But what do you say? 235. Do you like that? Too high? Too low?
I think it's probably in a good place. It could be a little bit higher on the list for me, but if it were me, there would be a lot more metal on this list. So
Yeah, in
Amen.
general.
Yeah.
I think for us too, you know.
Yeah. That's been a bitch all the way through this.
We've yeah.
list.
Mm-hmm.
like
This
a
is
lot.
because this is maybe like our third metal album.
Yeah. Probably. We've had Black Sabbath twice now. We've had this. We've had
Well, but we haven't even talked about Masters of Reality yet.
yeah. Well, we had the other Black Sabbath though. Yeah.
The self-titled Black
yeah.
Sabbath.
So I mean, as of today, we have two Black Sabbaths. Two Black Sabbaths.
Sabbaths.
We
have two Black Sabbaths and a Metallica.
exactly. But like, what else? I don't even know. Do you think there's any other Metallica on the list?
Yes.
There has to be.
Master of Puppets.
Master of Puppets has to be on this list.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great album as well. Like they would be fools to not put that on this list.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I don't know that I would. I mean, the only other one that I maybe put on this list, but there's no way it's on the list, would be Injustice for All.
You don't want Saint Anger on this list?
No.
Yeah.
Not even if they remix it with a snare on the fucking snare drum. I still don't want it on the list.
Yeah. I think even Metallica doesn't want it on the list.
No, Metallica doesn't.
They're like, no, put that away.
How about
Yeah.
you? What do you want to do with it?
I think that it's in a good spot. Like, especially considering that Master of Puppets will be on here, which probably will be, what do you think, like 150-ish? It's not going to break 100, I don't think.
No, I'll bet you it's closer to 200.
You think it's higher up? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is a good spot for it. I mean, it definitely is deserving of placement on the list for sure. And I can see that it belongs in the top half, but I like it here.
Are you going to buy it on vinyl?
If I found it, yeah, sure, I'd buy it on vinyl.
Would you?
Mm-hmm. I don't know that it would like add a whole lot to what you get out of it, but I think it'd be fun to have in the collection.
Yeah.
How about you?
Well, I picked up Master of Puppets not too long ago on vinyl,
Nice.
and that's a lot of fun to spin. And I would probably pick this up, and I would definitely pick up Justice. I do Injustice.
You
for
like
All,
that?
too.
Is that your favorite one?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It's my favorite. All right. And for the record, I'm probably okay with this position. Well, no, I wouldn't want to see it go down 20. It definitely has to be on the top half because this made metal mainstream
Right.
in a big way. Even bigger because Guns N' Roses wasn't really metal. That was like this weird hair metal shit.
Yeah.
When Appetite came out, this was fucking metal.
This is real metal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So from that standpoint, mad respect. What about Rex Todd?
Let's see what Rex Todd has to say.
Crazy fuck.
Rex Todd says more bullshit.
More bullshit.
And then when it comes to Metallica, he says, yes, one of the few albums so far that I know every single song. This is just a classic album. I will say that Metallica's early stuff had better be on this bullshit list. If none of them are, Rolling Stone is going to get a strongly worded letter with terse language that is not on stationery. This just reminds me of watching MTV and almost getting my shit creeped out by the Enter Sandman video. So he's a fan of the Enter Sandman video.
Oh, God. Because there was a wrinkly old guy on there. Rex was just hoping to see his nutsack the
Dirty
whole time.
bird. Yeah. I love this album. It's just hard rock and roll. Probably one of the first records to be listed as alternative rock.
Really, Rex?
Excellent album. I think Rolling Stone may have gotten its placement correct. Also, if you get a chance to listen to a cover album by different artists that do their versions of the songs on this record, buckle up. It's 4 discs, 50 plus tracks. It's called the Metallica Blacklist. This is different than the one you're talking.
Yeah.
Listen to Don't Tread on Me by Volbeat. It's straight up legit.
Yeah, he spent way more time than I did with that. And I think you and I talked about that on the show, because if you remember, there was just like massive collections of covers. So they may have had like 5 different versions of Enter Sandman on that Blacklist.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then they had like 3 or 4 different versions of Sad But True.
Wow.
Yeah.
That does sound familiar.
Yeah. I mean, it might be kind of cool if you had people that you really wanted to hear their versions.
You want to hear their interpretations of those Metallica tunes that you know and love.
I'll just take the Metallica things.
Yeah, it's like, you know what?
Can I get a Metallica
Someone did
sandwich?
it already. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. 1971's Black Sabbath, Master of Reality. Paranoid may have bigger hits, but Master of Reality, released a mere 6 months later, is heavier. It was the band's first attempt to use the recording studio, and it's full of ambitious ideas. Check out Bill Ward's funky timbale work on Children of the Grave. That's okay. So that's what that was. The highlight is Sweet Leaf, a droning love song to marijuana. The vibe is perfectly summed up by the final track, Into the Void, but it isn't all relentless doom. After Forever, written by bassist Geezer Butler, pretty much invents the idea of Christian metal. Okay. I think that what's going to happen here is JB and I are just going to have a circle jerk on how great Master of Reality was. And
Aiden will not be participating.
And Aiden will not be participating.
I don't have.
But I feel like no, you do not. But I feel like we should hear your perspective on this, Aiden, because I do think that it's valid, and I think that it's a perspective that a lot of people would be like, yes, please.
Go ahead, Aiden. Break our hearts.
I'm sorry to disappoint you, but I don't understand why this album is even on this list. Ozzy Osbourne ruins Black Sabbath for me. I think that instrumentally, Black Sabbath is an excellent band. If I could get past Ozzy's screeching and wailing, then I would find them more enjoyable. But unfortunately, he ruins it for me. I wish him nothing but the best, but I don't understand his addition to their music, and I appreciate that they were first, kind of whenever it comes to their genre of metal and what they did to open up this type of metal to other artists and inspire more people to experiment with this type of art. But I'm not a fan, and I did not enjoy this album. Actually, I got 2 songs in before I was like, fuck this, I'm over it.
Wow. Well, I will say, you know what?
I
Go
listened to other albums of them. I had a dumb boyfriend in high school that really liked Black Sabbath, so I've listened to them before, but I just, man, not my jam.
Kind of warned me about the Black Sabbath hatred, and I was ready to kind of argue with you, but you know what? Like, I can respect your opinion because there have been several other, because of what you said. You said that you really like instrumentally the band, but his voice just does not like work with you at all. There's been other albums on this list that we've talked about that I've just been like, man, I would fucking love this if it wasn't for this terrible fucking singer who literally ruins the entire thing for me.
Yes.
So it's like if you don't like someone's voice, it's really, really hard to put it past it, especially if there's a lot of singing, which there's not, like, there's quite a bit of singing, throughout it. There's definitely some instrumental parts, but it'll ruin the song for you if you don't like the voice.
Yeah. And the sad part is that, and you made reference to this, like if you were able to strip out those vocal tracks, especially the bass work by Geezer Butler, like this is fucking the most ridiculous fun a metal bass player can have, like by legal measures, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And these are also some of the fucking crazy best riffs I think Tommy Iommi ever wrote. Bottom line. Like, and I don't think it even comes close on some of these tracks. I fucking love them so much. Love it, love it, love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could not get enough of this disc. And I will die on the hill tonight that I actually want this to be higher than Paranoid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I knew that was coming. Because you think it's more influential to the genre in the long run.
Yes. Right? Yeah. Because as we've talked about, this list can celebrate one of two things. This list can either celebrate the original, which this list really, really likes to do. This list favors the original content over the derivative, even if the derivative is better. And we've talked about that multiple times over multiple different episodes. To me, this Black Sabbath record, though, like if you listen to songs like After Forever, songs like Lord of This World, songs like Children of the Grave, I feel like you can hear almost every subgenre of metal that is born from like 1977 through about 1990. And maybe even through the mid 90s, if you think about Queens of the Stone Age and like the weird doom metal, stoner metal that came about in the late 90s.
Yeah.
Because it's all fucking here. Like,
it really is.
You can hear you can hear Iron Maiden and like that really kind of weird technical prog metal that comes out. You can totally hear hair metal through this thing, like all over this thing.
And then like what's considered sludge metal,
yep,
you know, which is a pretty big subgenre, was basically invented here, you know, basically by accident.
Yeah,
you know,
because Tommy Iommi has bitchy little fingers.
Yeah, well, didn't he like cut his fingertips off or something like that?
Yeah, he was working in a factory and he like lost the tips of his middle and ring fingers.
He's just being a baby. But yeah, so due to that, he was constantly struggling to play the guitar comfortably and trying to, you know, come up with ways to make that easier for him. And so what he did is he tuned his guitar down a minor third, which is 3 half steps. So normal guitar is E standard tuning, and he tuned it down to C sharp, which is just obscenely low, you know. Although bands do lower these days, but I don't know. You wonder if they would have done that if it wasn't for him doing that for the originally. But so basically, the fact that he cut his fingers off and was uncomfortable spawned sludge metal. Yeah.
Well, I'll just say this: I put 5 and 4 stars next to just about every song on this record. Sweet Leaf, After Forever, Children of the Grave, all put 5 stars next to Lord of This World, Solitude, and Into the Void, 4 stars and 3 stars.
I had 5 on Sweet Leaf, Children of the Grave, Lord of This World, and Into the Void.
Yeah.
I loved the guitar riff on Into the Void. Loved the timing changes on that one. That one was tricky. That was like their hardest song, like according to them at least, to pull off. Was that Embryo? I only gave it a star, but it was really more of like an interlude. It wasn't really a full song.
That was the modern day version of a rap skit.
Yeah.
As done by the birthers of doom metal.
Yeah. It was like folky. It was kind of a weird, but it didn't sound like metal, you know?
No, it didn't. It sounded like a medieval interlude.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
What'd you think of Orchid?
Kind of the same thing. It was just a little bit of a longer version of the Embryo thing.
I feel like you could hear the neoclassical kind of genre that would eventually split off. You could hear that there a little bit. Or,
absolutely.
You know, hints of it.
Yeah. In more of like a ballady type manner. Because it was all just, it was really beautiful though.
Yeah, acoustic playing on a Black Sabbath album, you know? Never expect that.
Yep.
And it's crazy just how dry a lot of this album is. Like, in terms of the tonality of it, like the bass and the guitars, they don't have like any reverb or any delay, which is just like unheard of to not use that kind of thing. You know, it's just they're just unabashed. You know, they're not afraid. They're just putting it right out there.
Yeah.
Just playing the riffs. That's what it's all about. You know.
Yeah, but and I actually went back after I listened to this. I had listened to this a number of times, but I started arguing with people over text about whether this or Paranoid was better. And so then I went back and I listened, like I juxtaposed the two albums and I listened to them right on top of each other. And
You're still,
yeah. I think that the riffs are far more complex on this record.
Yeah, they required more thought,
Yeah. And I think
There's
that
more
this
to
is,
'em.
and I think this, because I was also reading that when they went back into the studio after they recorded this, like Tommy Iommi had terrible writer's block. And I guess he sat in the studio for a fucking long time. They wound up leaving LA and going back to England because like they just sat in the studio for like a month and he's like, I don't got anything. I don't know what to tell you guys. And it finally broke when they went back to England, but I think that that's something that would happen after somebody just kind of, if you put everything into something, you know what I mean? Like if you're like, okay,
Yeah.
I've literally fucking
The well's going to be dry for a little bit.
Yeah, like especially if you're pulling like every fucking rabbit out of your hat. And I feel like they did this with this record. And I wasn't, before getting to it on this list, this wasn't one of those records that was really on my radar as holy shit, this is amazing and everybody should hear it. But I'm pretty sure just while Aiden and Colin were out here in Iowa, I forced poor Colin to listen to this fucking record like 3 times, just driving around with me in my truck. So I was like, you have to hear this. Everybody must hear this.
You have to hear every minute of it.
Yeah. So fucking good.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love it too. I don't know if I'm going to agree with the thing, but I'm not going to disagree with it either. And I have no argument against it. So, but it's a hard one for me to stand by, maybe.
I think Paranoid. Okay, so we were just talking about how iconic Enter Sandman was while we were talking about the Black Album. Paranoid has the far more iconic songs.
It's got Paranoid, it's got War Pigs.
Between Paranoid, War Pigs, and Iron Man.
Yeah.
Like those are superbly iconic Black Sabbath songs. But if you listen to them, like none of them are as complex. Like they don't bear the same complexity that the songs on this album do. And frankly, I think that the riffs on this album are better.
Wow.
Maybe not as memorable, but way better. Juicier. So in my book, in my world, I don't care where Paranoid is, I'm flip-flopping these two albums in my world.
What if Paranoid is top 40?
I'm flip-flopping these two records in my world. I don't care where Paranoid is.
Where do you think Paranoid is? Do you know?
No, I don't know, but I'm going to assume that it's between 50 and 100.
I bet it's above 50.
You really think so?
I feel like it'd be crazy not to put it there.
I think this list has shit on metal so hard that...
Yeah. I'm thinking maybe they'll throw metal a bone with putting Paranoid at like number 28 or something like that. Dude.
Listen, I think Masters of Reality would fit fine at number 28.
Yeah. Why don't we go 27 and 28?
This will be fun to revisit this conversation when we do get to Paranoid. Though.
Where do you want this to be, Aiden? Like 1,000?
I said I questioned why it was even on the list to begin with. So I'm going to stick to that. I don't know why. I don't know. I think that Paranoid makes more sense to have on this list than this album out of all of the albums. But this album, I don't understand. But that's just me.
That's fair.
Let's see what Rex
say. Todd. Yep.
Yeah.
So Rex Todd, Sabbath, all caps, multiple exclamation points. Hells yeah, a heavier sound than their early era albums. That thumping bass line on Children of the Grave just gets your head thrashing to it. Lord of This World is my favorite on this record. Yeah.
Yep.
That was pretty much Spawn Off a Sledge, I thought.
Yeah.
Wish I could listen to this album on vinyl instead of a remaster on Spotify.
Yes.
Classic Sabbath sound with fantastic bass lines that come through and give this album a heavy sound. Mm-hmm. Ozzy sounds on point. Love this record. Great spot on the list.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, my final thought on this record, and I know that Aiden hates Ozzy Osbourne, but to me, like this is the pinnacle of Geezer. This is the pinnacle of Tommy Iommi, and this is the pinnacle of Ozzy. Yeah. Like I think that all three of those guys, this record is them
where they achieved their maximum potential.
Correct. Yeah. At least that ever got recorded.
Yeah.
in my mind.
Despite Ozzy remembering little to nothing of the recording process of this album.
Smoke less reefer, Ozzy.
Yeah.
Less of the sweet leaf.
That was funny reading about Sweet Leaf's like inception, because they were basically just sitting around in the studio trying to figure out what to write about, like lyrically, and they were just smoking tons of weed at the time. And somebody had like a pack of cigarettes or something that said Sweet Leaf, and they're like, "Oh, we like marijuana, and that says Sweet Leaf. That kind of lines up perfect." And they started with that. Just stoners.
Stoners.
On? Yes. Let's do it. Yes. 230 famous laureate for a generation of battle-worn young women, no longer satisfied with silence. From behind a piano that she wields like a machete, aside sharp reflections, Little Earthquakes is an incisive reflection on sexual assault, abuse, PTSD, and coming of age under the heavy veil of it all. At times thorny and confrontational, Amos's voice still remains a warm invitation to people like her learning how to diffuse their trauma and move forward as best they can.
Man, that's a lot.
And it's exactly right.
Yeah.
When you say?
Yeah.
So you guys were pretty intimately familiar with Tori Amos, right? Like before this?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Aiden, where does this fall for you in the catalog?
This is probably one of my favorite albums of all time. I would say. I just, there's a couple Tori Amos albums that I would say like they're like top 10, just so good. This is definitely one of them. I've been listening to Tori Amos since like I came into this world, basically. So it has a lot of nostalgia for me. But it also like her lyrics and everything, they helped me grow into, or they were just such a huge part of me growing into the woman that I am today. And so, like growing up with this album was, it gives so much strength if you listen to everything that she says. And it just has a lot of, like, the lyrics just have so much value to them. Also her ability on the piano is just, it's breathtaking. Like the art that she creates is something that, like, if you don't understand music, you won't understand how beautiful everything it is that she creates. She's just so amazing. And this album truly reflects her talent.
That's the one thing that I want to say about this record, was that in some ways I feel like it's almost masking what she's doing on the piano. It's not that it's masked at all, but like her
voice is so incredible that it almost overshadows.
Yeah.
And her piano playing is nutso. Like, that's for sure. She's an incredible musician. I mean, I was shipped to some kind of edgy music, right?
For musical, is what her school record
is the coolest thing I've ever heard. Yeah.
That is some fucking baller ass shit, dude. When you're 11 and your music academy has to boot your ass out because you won't do what they're telling you to do, that's when you're a fucking gangster.
Yeah.
Like a real musical gangster.
That's some box shit. That's what that is.
It was hard. Like it was a Juilliard level academy that kicked her out, and her dad started taking her to like gay bars to play music. Like, and you can also see because her father was a preacher, you can see a lot of his religious influence throughout this album as well, which is, it's just so good. There's so many layers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This record is crazy too, because this was her first album, and she's relatively old for a musician. She's 28 when this comes out.
Was she?
Yeah.
Oh.
She's 28 when this comes
For some
out,
reason, I thought she
and
was like 19.
she already had like one. So she had been living in LA, and she had this failed band called Tori Can't Read. And I wouldn't say that it was a failed band, but she just kind of got burned with that experience of it. And so I guess she was really leery. And so her and this other dude, they cut like 12 songs onto a demo, delivered it to the record company, and the record company says, okay, we see where you're going, but this isn't what we want. You got to give us some more. And so they went back, and I think that's when she went to England and cut like 4 or 5 more songs, and then submitted all of them to the company. And they created this album for her, but they only released it in England first because they thought that she would get better play over in England because of like the connection with kind of that Kate Bushy type of sound. But it's weird for me because I remember I always thought that Tori Amos had to have been from England too. Like when I was younger, because I was like, oh man, she's so European. No, dude, she's from Southern California.
Yeah.
She just got sold as like this pseudo European
packaged kind of. Yeah.
But this fucking record is ridiculous, man.
It's incredible, man. I have several 5 stars, several in a row, actually. I mean,
all right on the top.
Yeah. I didn't have one until Silent all these years. That was my first 5-star.
What? Okay, so how many did you put next to Crucify then?
3. I liked it a lot. 3 stars.
Man,
that's praise.
I put 5. I have 5 stars next to Crucify, 5 stars next to Girl, 5 stars next to Silent all these years. But literally, my favorite Tori Amos song of all time is Precious Things.
That's badass too.
And you got to listen to that live. When she plays that song live, it is
that like gut-wrenching scream thing that she does in the middle of it, dude.
She crushes that.
Yeah, I bet she does too.
Yeah, it's absurd.
The production on it is cool too, just the way it's put together and the way the instrumentation morphs as it goes. Like when that electric guitar, like that's all distorted, just comes in like against her like classically informed piano playing, is it's awesome.
Yeah. But then the back half, there's Leather. I mean, honestly, 0.5 stars next to something.
Assholes.
I don't know why I didn't just say that song is fucking 5 stars.
I put 4 on it. But I did put 5 on both Winter and Happy Phantom.
I put 4 on Happy Phantom and 3 on Winter.
Dude, the emotion that was in her voice on Winter is just like unparalleled. Like, her falsetto, just like the way that, and I wrote here that she puts more emotion into one syllable than like most entire albums have. You know what I mean? Like her voice, like, and this is like my first, listen of Tori Amos was this. I wasn't really familiar with her at all. So yeah. I was blown away.
Yeah. She's special. And as time goes on, I think they do a better job of capturing like what she can do instrumentally with the piano. Because again, like the piano is, I mean, it's there if you're listening for it, but it's not as though this record was cut because somebody thought that she was an amazing piano player with a good voice.
Agreed. Yeah.
We
did get Mother, which is like basically just a solo piano tune, like her vocals and the piano. That was nice. She got a little bit more of a showcase there.
Yep.
What'd you think of Me and a Gun?
That's a crazy fucking song, dude.
It is. Yeah.
It's very Sinead O'Connor.
Very much so, but better.
Yeah. Well, because Sinead O'Connor felt like it was, I don't know. I don't even know how to say this. Like, it didn't feel like it carried nearly as much weight as this song did. I guess is the best way to say it.
Yeah.
The fact that
I feel like
the fact that she did that song completely a cappella really drives home the raw like emotion of what that song is about.
Yeah.
Emotional, and it's supposed to be, and the fact that it is a cappella, I think, is something that it's a risk that most artists don't take, and she did it perfect. Like it was absolutely perfect. She got her message across, and it really drove home the emotion of what she was experiencing at that time.
I can't ever fathom what it would be like to be a victim of sexual assault like that, but
No.
I have to imagine that the musical equivalent would be nakedness except your voice.
Yeah, I
Does
mean,
that
I
make
feel like
sense?
if like from whatever like from the absolute zero experience that I have with that, I mean, it seems like she kind of captures like the musical version, you
The
know.
musical version of it,
Yeah.
yeah, of just like the vulnerability that the lyrics are describing.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, it's weird to even describe it like that because it's just fucking haunting.
It is.
And that's what that song is. Like it's unbelievable.
It is
It's fucking crazy, dude.
Yeah, I wrote Perfect Decision to do this in acapella. Yeah, it took a lot of courage.
Yeah. Little Earthquakes too, though, right after that.
Great closer.
I love that song a ton. There is very little to not like on this record, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
And you don't have to, I mean, yeah, just like you, if you've never spent that much time with Tori Amos, if you're only going to listen to one record, listen to Mars and Back, because To Mars and Back is one where she kind of gets a little bit exploratory with not EDM, but like more electronic of style of music. But that was a double disc, and the second disc was a live disc, compiled kind of like Slip Stitch and Pass from a couple of different shows. But fuck, man, like that live disc, like that, and I never really listened to live music before I got really into Fish, you know, but that live disc from To Mars and Back, that record totally changed my life with Tori Amos, because I heard that and I was like, oh my God, like, is she really doing all of this? The way that they mixed all of those live tracks, they put her and the piano on top, but it doesn't crush the rest of the mix, and it is powerful. Really, really good.
I'm gonna add it to my digital library right now so I don't forget to listen to it.
What do you think, Aiden? Like if you wanted to start like crib notes on somebody that didn't have any experience with Tori Amos, like what would you tell somebody to tune into?
I would say this album, Under the Pink and Pandora's Aquarium, those are the that I think really showcase her like just her raw talent. But those are also the three albums that I think growing up I probably listened to the most. And
yeah,
but I've listened to her all of her music a lot. Like she's one of my favorite artists of all time. But those three albums are definitely the three that I would tell somebody to start with, and I would tell them to start with this album, then Under the Pink, and then Pandora's Aquarium.
Yeah.
To be clear, you're talking about To Venus and Back, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I said
okay.
To Mars and Back. Aiden, do you think this is the only Tori Amos, or do you think we get Under the Pink too?
I would hope we would get Under the Pink as well. I feel like that album deserves something on this list. It's so beautifully done as well. Like these two albums together, I would say compete to be on this list and deserve to be higher up on this list.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about this album relative to the fact that I think there's 4 Kate Bush albums on this list?
We haven't even hit one.
And we haven't hit a single one yet. So what do you think about that? Because you're familiar with Kate Bush, right?
I'm not as familiar with Kate Bush, but I am a little familiar with Kate Bush. I think that she's great, but I'm way more into Tori Amos than I would say probably like Ani DeFranco as well is another artist that makes me think of Kate Bush. The three of them, I would say that Kate Bush is probably the one that I wouldn't see as much on this list if I were making the list. But she has a lot of talent as well. So I'm curious to see what albums of hers show up on this list.
Yeah, it's so weird to me, and we've had this conversation. Like JB and I have had this conversation about the fact that there's no Ani DeFranco on this list. That's mind-boggling to me.
Yeah, we
You
had
have,
a
like-
conversation in relation to Fiona Apple.
Yeah, and listen, I love all of Fiona Apple's appearances on this list. I'm with you, Aiden. I think we still get Under the Pink. I think Under the Pink is the other Tori Amos album that we get, and you're right in terms of, because like this album and Under the Pink were her first two releases, and they're a really good dovetail. Like she does interesting stuff far later in her career too, but I don't think you get anything with the immediacy of these first two records, if that made sense, right?
No, I
I think so.
But the fact that there's no Ani DeFranco is like that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because they celebrate punk, and that's kind of what Ani DeFranco did. Like Ani DeFranco took like Joni Mitchell and like Joan Baez, and then like put Tori Amos in a blender with her and a little bit of fucking Sex Pistols, and like zipped it all up into
Yeah, it
something
seems like a
crazy.
weird slight.
Yeah.
Definite snub.
But I'll be really curious to see where Under the Pink falls. I'm kind of with you. I'd like to see this probably closer to 150, because I think this is really special. I think it's really good.
I think I'd have to wait to listen to that other one to decide for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is one of those ones that it's pretty high already, you know.
Mhm.
But like for me, a lot of these ones that we get this high, and if I don't know it, I'm gonna be like, okay, I bet I'm gonna knock this down. But this is not one of those. Like I completely understand why it's this high, and I'm not against raising it higher, but it is high already, you know.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
It's fantastic. So check it out if you don't know it for sure.
What did Rex think?
Rex Todd on Tori Amos. Here's another artist I have never listened to, so here goes nothing. Man, this is reminiscent of early 90s adult contemporary. Can you guys play an Uno card on this hand and skip me? No?
Aww.
Okay. This album is making me sad in a Sinead O'Connor kind of way. Not as bad as Sinead, but close. Yes, Tori Amos has a great voice. The piano is good, but can this one go up to 325? I think so.
Oh, you fucker. Boo.
Boo.
All right, let's talk 2.
232.
Jesus, we're selling the twos. Okay, 232.
We haven't moved on to the threes yet.
1960, the seminal album from John Coltrane, Giant Steps. Rolling Stone says, with characteristic humility, John Coltrane said the title of this album referred to the loping instrumental gait of his bassist Paul Chambers. On his Atlantic debut, Coltrane played with a heated melodic enthusiasm, flying clusters of notes that declared new possibilities for jazz improvisation and predicted the ferocious harmonically open lyricism that would come with his mid-60s record on Impulse. Mr. PC, Cousin Mary, and Spiral became Coltrane's first classics. This
Not to
fucking
mention
album
Giant Steps.
crushes, dude.
It does. I mean, this is a genre defining album.
Yeah.
You know, of one of the most influential genres in music in general, you know.
Yep.
This is a crazy album.
Yeah, and it's really wild because like you get a little bit of the bebop that was so like prevalent in the mid to late 1950s, and so you still get a little bit of that bebop type feel.
Definitely.
But chord wise, he's fucking doing crazy shit
Yeah.
across this whole fucking record,
He
dude.
basically invented a new style of jazz chord changes. You know,
Yes.
they literally call Coltrane changes, you know?
Yeah. And he's making huge jumps, right? He's
Yeah,
jumping
major thirds.
He's jumping major thirds between almost all of his improvisations and through the melodies on this thing. And I don't know shit because I'm not a woodwind player. But I'll tell you, like, as a brass player, like, that'd be fucking tricky. Like, if that's all you
I think
were
it'd be
doing,
just about as tricky, you know?
yeah, I would think so too. Maybe not on an instrument like a guitar where you can kind of cheat around things.
Yeah, you can just like slide up.
Yeah, but when you're talking about like a woodwind instrument or even a brass instrument, like when you're jumping, when you're making that big a jump between every single one of your notes, it's like, fuck, you just get tired.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
your embouchure gets tired. It's just,
These are
exhausting.
notoriously hard changes, you know, specifically hard to solo over.
yeah.
I mean, I know as a musician that plays jazz gigs, you know, people absolutely do not want to play Giant Steps. I don't want to play Giant Steps, you know, I mean, but specifically horn players like definitely do not want to play Giant Steps because they do not want to have to solo over it because it is really fucking hard. The crazy thing about it is like this recording that made it onto this version of Giant Steps, there's several versions of Giant Steps, you know, but this is the OG one.
Yeah.
There was no rehearsal, you know, like he just showed up
they
to
just
the
put this down.
he just showed up to the studio and he's like, hey guys, here it is. And I bet the guys were just like, fuck. You know what I mean? Like, for sure. But the piano player, you can hear on this recording, he's struggling big time. He puts like there's several little like stop and go, like, oh, that didn't work, you know, let me try something else. And then like I remember reading that they basically had to cut his solo short and Coltrane had to come back in because he was like having too difficult of a time, you know. And you can hear it especially if you know that and you like listen for it, you can hear that.
You can hear the breaks in it.
He doesn't really hit any like bad notes or anything because it's hard to, I mean, especially it's hard to even identify bad notes when the chords are changing that fast.
They're changing that quickly. Yeah.
You can tell that he's struggling to keep a continuous line going, you know?
Aiden, what did you think about this? Because you're not like a huge jazz head, right?
Yeah, I'm not super into jazz, but this album blew my mind. Like, it totally blew me away. This is definitely one of those, like, you and I were talking about it earlier. It's classic music. Like, this is classic. Like, this is a keystone in jazz. Like, if I were to recommend a jazz album to someone, this is one that I would recommend. And I wouldn't usually recommend jazz because that's not so like I'm listening to metal most of the time, but but I really dug this. I thought it was really cool, and I think, you know, it deserves more people to listen to it than what I assume have listened to it thus far. Like I wish that I had listened to it sooner. It's such a good piece. Every single song is just absolutely breathtaking. It's a work of art, just an absolute work of art.
Yeah. Jazz is, until like you get somebody that's willing to just take a chance on jazz, I think jazz to a lot of people can seem inaccessible, but man, it's so easy to
especially to the younger generations, you know, like our generation, you know.
Yeah.
It's just you don't grow up with it anymore, you know. It's like most people don't listen to it that much these days. I mean, there's definitely, it's more of a niche these days, I should say.
It is.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Especially the old stuff, like like kind of classic jazz. But I don't know. I can't get enough of it.
Me neither.
And especially like this era. Like this era in particular is really, really good. And I like Miles when Miles gets really weird and really fucked up on drugs. Like I do like that. But I also really like the stuff that Miles was doing with his quintet, which happened to be the exact same band basically that was playing with the Miles Davis quintet from like 55 to 59. That's who Coltrane picked up for this session.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And it wasn't a perfect match. Like the piano player didn't cross over, but Paul Chambers on bass, and then who was on drums? The drummer both carried over from Miles Davis. But one thing that I do want to make mention of, and you and I were talking before the podcast about Apple Music versus Spotify. Apple has they do have lossless streaming now, right? So you can stream FLACs, if you will. If you're going to listen to this record, and I highly recommend everybody listen to it, listen to the most recent remaster, because they just dropped a new remaster of this record. It was like the 40, I don't know, whatever some odd anniversary, but it came out last year in 2021. And that fucking remaster is gorgeous. Even on a digital platform, it's spectacular. Like if you listen to it with really nice headphones on, you can hear everything.
Yeah.
And it was shocking to me how good the remaster how the digital remaster sounded. Totally. And I have this on vinyl, so I spun.
You do have it on vinyl?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. In fact, I have Little Earthquakes on vinyl too.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that. I would get it too. I don't have it. I don't have this either.
I need Master of Reality and I need the Black Album.
I need more jazz like this for sure too.
Yeah. Yeah, you do.
Are you a Charlie Parker guy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, you definitely get some of that vibe here too, like with Countdown.
Yep.
That third track, man. That is one of the most blazingly
fireball,
fast,
dude.
Yeah. One of the fastest sax lines I feel like I've ever heard. It's just like, how could he even be intending to play any of the notes that he's playing? You know,
I know.
He's got to just be going like blowing as fast as he can and just moving his hands as fast as he possibly can.
Cousin Mary, I absolutely loved.
Me too.
Like that was probably that one and Countdown are probably my favorite. Probably my favorite cuts on the album.
I love Spiral so much.
Spiral is beautiful. That melody at the top of that song is absolutely fucking stunning. And then that chord progression that comes in the middle where it's like
on Spiral.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how it's like
love that.
They got their little head riff and then they keep returning to that. It's like they go to a short little solo thing and then it comes right back in. And, and that chord progression at the end, like it really does feel like a downward spiral, whatever they're doing. You know?
Yes. Saida Song Flute though, like I put 4 stars next to that. 4 stars next to Naima. That's a beautiful fucking song.
I put 5 on Naima. That's a gorgeous ballad.
Yeah.
Incredible tone out of like that's because you really get to hear his expressive voicing of his tone on that one.
So my very last sentence on that was masterclass in phrasing.
Yeah.
Because the phrasing in that fucking song, like on all of those horns, but particularly with what he's doing on the sax, it's stunning. It's like it doesn't get any better. It just doesn't get any fucking better. And then Mr. PC at the very end, like that's a Paul Chambers jam. And
I wrote masterclass in walking bass. I mean, there's every song is a fucking masterclass, dude.
I know. This it's weird to think that. I mean, listen, I get it. We're at 232. It's super, super high. I don't know what
not high enough.
Well, we're gonna get like we're still gonna get Kind of Blue from Miles Davis. Yeah, we haven't seen In a Silent Way. We haven't seen Bitches Brew. Like Bitches Brew is gonna come up. And then what's the this isn't even John Coltrane's most famous. It's not Kind of Miles Davis. What's I'll
find out.
Yeah, it's got the blue cover on it.
Yeah, I know exactly.
God damn it. I can't remember the fucking name of it to save my life now. But you know what I mean? Like we're gonna get more jazz. And so I'll be kind of curious.
I love Supreme. Right?
No. Not
Blue Train.
Blue Train.
Blue Train.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna get Love Supreme too, right?
Yes. Yeah.
We have to.
Yeah, and that's I mean, I don't know where all these records are going to fall in, but I'll probably be I'll probably be ready to argue.
I wonder if we're going to see any Charlie Parker.
I don't know, and that's a weird one because there's not a lot of really great recordings of Charlie Parker out there.
There's not.
Certainly not.
Like got to be one of the greatest musicians of the 20th century.
Yeah.
So I feel like you got to represent.
We'll get a compilation.
Way. I hope so.
We'll get. I
really do hope so.
So with all that being said, I guess I'll argue with this one later.
But move it up. I'll move it up for now. I'll say that.
Yeah, I'll move it up for now too.
I think it needs to be 100 higher.
Sure.
Seriously.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
But I also give a ton of credence to jazz.
Me too.
A ton
because
of
rightfully so.
To jazz.
I mean, one of the most important genres of all time, for sure.
Yeah. I'm glad that we're seeing more jazz on this list than what we see of those. I feel like both those genres are really, really important.
Yeah.
For different reasons and in different ways, important. And they're both a little underrated relative to, I don't know, Terrible Rap by Drake.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck.
Sorry, I made you think about Drake.
Yeah, I can't believe you did that to me. Yeah, for sure. But you want to see what Rex has to say?
Yeah.
Excellent selection on the list. Coltrane was a master on the sax, an absolutely influential artist. This is an almost perfect album. Nothing on this album is arbitrary or mundane. It's lively, fun, and just a fun listen. Love this. I wonder where the music world would be if we hadn't lost him at such a young age. Amen, Charlie. Because how old was Coltrane when he died? I wonder.
I think he was 42, 43 maybe.
That sounds right. Yeah, 43. 40 years old.
Man,
Charlie Parker had to be younger, right?
possibly.
34. Yeah.
Jesus, 34.
Mm-hmm.
God damn.
Heroin's a hell of a drug. That's what happened, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Not with John Coltrane. John Coltrane was actually clean when he died, but he died of complications basically from prolonged drug use.
Yeah, it says, not to get off topic here, but Parker died of lobar pneumonia and bleeding ulcer. I'm sure it was drug related though. But he said that the coroner who performed his autopsy mistakenly estimated his 34-year-old body to be between 50 and 60 years of age.
What the fuck?
Oh,
Drugs.
That's living hard right there.
Yeah. That's everyday heroin use.
That is, yeah, that's going hard in the paint if you look like a 60-year-old.
Any other thoughts on Giant Steps, Aiden, before we move on?
no, I think I've said everything I want to say. It's just an incredible album. It deserves to be higher on.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Should we do the final one of the day?
Let's talk about Mr. Petty.
Second Mr. Petty, right?
Because we've had Wildflowers.
No, we didn't have Wildflowers.
We haven't had Wildflowers?
No, we had
Then we had
we had the solo one. And I know Wildflowers is a solo one, but it was the other solo one. We had
Full Moon Fever.
Full Moon Fever. Yeah, that's what it
Full
was.
Moon Fever. Okay.
This is the first Heartbreakers album.
Yes.
Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Damn the Torpedoes from 1979.
Damn them.
With hair like Jagger's and a voice like Dylan's in tune. Ooh, shots fired. Tom Petty and his bar band defrilled classic rock. In 1979, he filed for bankruptcy. Then Torpedoes took off, mostly because Here Comes My Girl seemed to keep the promises those like Jagger et al. Forgot they'd made. Perfectly produced by future music industry mega mogul Jimmy Iovine. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Iovine. Torpedoes gave bright, jangling 60s rock a sheen that made pretty much everything else on AOR radio seem lumpy and stiff, while Petty's obvious authenticity kept the music from ever seeming calculated or overly polished. Yeah. I like that they said Petty's obvious authenticity. That's a good way to put it. Like you could never doubt that Tom Petty is authentic. Just something about the way that he, you know.
I mean, he's not pretending to be Tom Petty.
No, but you know what? I just mean it not in the fact that he's like, oh, this guy's actually Tom Petty. He's some kind of imposter.
All right, Aiden. Hit us with your bomb.
Hit it.
This is quintessential old man music. This is this is the music that whenever I think about like some old guy sitting out front with his bush light waving an American flag, this music he's listening to. That's how I
brother.
Betty. I feel like if you've seen his halftime show at the Super Bowl, then you've listened to all of his music.
That's probably fair. I mean, you probably listen to most of it. Do you ever think about Silence of the Lambs when you hear Tom Petty?
A little bit. I can see a connection.
I always think about Silence of the Lambs when I think about American Girl.
Oh, yeah.
And then it immediately makes me think, put the lotion in the basket.
Because that song's playing in the movie, right?
When he
and you're seeing Aiden.
When he
yeah.
Okay, so I don't
feel that way.
What do you think about this?
Maybe I'm one of those old guys at this point. You know?
Well, no, but I want to hear what you like. Tell me your thoughts on this whole record. This is what I
Honestly,
wanna
I'll
hear.
say this is definitely not like my favorite Tom Petty record at all. I do love Tom Petty in general, and I liked a lot of this stuff, but these are definitely not my favorite Tom Petty songs. But this is the one that kind of brought him to real prominence. This is like what, his third album with the Heartbreakers, or second or third, and he wasn't like extremely in the forefront before this.
No.
This kind of brought him there. So I think that's why that this is on here. There are some songs that I like Refugee is a fantastic song.
It's a great song.
It's great. I really, really love Even the Losers.
Yep.
That's one of my favorites.
Yep.
Beyond that, the rest of them, I mean, there's
Here Comes
nothing
My Girl.
5-star. Here Comes My Girl. I like it.
That's a great song.
It's a 3-star song for me.
Yeah, it's a 3-star song for me too.
And I like a lot of the rest of them, but I mean, Don't Do Me Like That is pretty good. But
3-star
just
song.
for the fact that it helped. Yeah, 3-star song for me. But just for the fact that this is the one Tom Petty into prominence, and I love a lot of Tom Petty's other stuff. So for me, that's why it's here.
For me, this record should be right around the Go-Go's.
Was it like 400?
I don't know. Is that where the Go-Go's were?
Something like that.
Here's the reason why, dude. And here's my beef on Petty. I can't think of a single Tom Petty record, whether it's with the Heartbreakers or by himself, where I say, holy shit, I start that record and I push play and every song fucking rips.
Yeah.
Because Tom Petty to me is like this super classic rock and roller. And it used to be back in the day, as long as you had an A side, you could make a record.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
But yeah, I mean, you're talking about just a massive percentage of artists, though, right? When you say something like that,
yeah,
like an overwhelming majority.
Yes, and I think that he was like, and he rose to the cream, right? Like he did rise to the top of that collection, but it was still a formula that drives me nuts to this day. And that's a formula of let's make 4 really good songs, and then we'll write some other songs, and it'll be fine because those 4 will fucking love them.
Yeah, there is a decent back half to this. So I mean, I think What Are You Doing in My Life is a pretty solid tune. I think even Louisiana Rain is pretty good.
I mean, I like You Tell Me.
Yeah.
And I didn't dislike Louisiana Rain. I didn't put any stars next to What Are You Doing in My Life. That wasn't really my jam.
I put 2 on it.
But I'm going to stand by my comment. And that I don't think any Tom Petty record, I might be able to case for Wildflowers being in the top 250 of this list, but I'm not putting any other Tom Petty record in the top half of this list. And I'm not going to do that because there's no Tom Petty record outside of Tom Petty's greatest hits that's like a fucking rip roaring banger from top to bottom.
That's fair. But
and that's just because of like the era that he came up into the studio music industry.
Indeed, yeah.
It wasn't his fault.
I don't disagree with that at all. I think that's a very fair assessment. But I just think that he definitely still deserves represented on the greatest albums of all time.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm glad he is. And there's going to be more. I mean, we'll get Wildflowers for sure. What has Mary Jane's Last Dance on it? Just because that's like probably his most famous song, right?
I'm pretty sure that was on Wildflowers, right?
Was it really?
Yeah, I think so.
It sounded great.
Well, I know, and that's.
Do you want the greatest hits on this list?
I mean, no, I don't. I just don't want any of. I just don't want any records. I love Tom Petty, but I don't want any single Tom Petty record to be super high on this list because people are trying to give Tom Petty respect. This is a list of the greatest albums of all time.
Yeah.
And so they should be judged based on the entirety of the album. And again, even in the description, if here on Rolling Stone, like one of the things that everybody loves about this is that Iovine went in there and he basically made these guys actually record. Genius of Jimmy Iovine is they produce the fuck out of this, but it doesn't sound like it's overly produced.
Yeah.
But I mean, he produced it so hard, basically everybody hated him. By the end
Right.
of it, they're like, this guy's a fucking prick. Get him out of here.
I think that's going to be the only other one we get.
Is Wildflowers.
Yeah, because that has Wildflowers, that has You Don't Know How It Feels, that has You Wreck Me, It's Good to Be King. There are some good tunes on that one.
Yeah,
But I bet that's it.
I think so too.
And I bet it's
And I'm probably more comfortable with Wildflowers being wherever it may fall, because it's gonna be fairly high up there, and I'm okay with leaving that one up there. But to me, this one should probably fall by 100.
I'm comfortable dropping it. Yeah. I do think he's just such a fantastic songwriter, though. And I think he's specifically where Tom Petty's strengths, I think I said this exact same thing the last time we talked about Tom Petty, but where his strengths really lie is in arrangement. Like in the way that he arranges songs, he's just the master of a rock and roll arranging. He knows exactly like this verse needs to be half as long as the last verse. This spot needs to have 2 choruses. We need a really short bridge here. He just knows exactly what to do. So I think even his shitty B-sides are pretty damn good, you know?
Yeah,
But
they're
I
okay.
agree that they're like, they don't like, I don't remember I don't remember 1 or 2 of like, I couldn't like sing you from the
I know.
B-sides on this one. So like,
I
they're
know.
not as impactful. Yeah.
And but again, like I'm saying that's my beef with Tom Petty. It's not. It's my beef with the recording industry of basically like 1975 until 1990.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because that's what music was. Like when you got signed to a label, the label you just needed enough
It's
good
almost
songs
like as
to
soon
sell
as-
a fuck ton of records.
It's almost like as soon as the record became a thing, that became a thing,
that became a thing.
you know?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. So, Aiden, are you going to go back and revisit this one day when you're 40 and your husband's
And drinking
like,
Busch Light on the front porch?
yeah, like 43? Do you think you guys are going to sit around and listening to Refugee one day?
I don't know about that, but maybe. This is just not my jam, man. It's not, but I can see why it ended up on this list. Like, especially, it's like it's classic, like American kind of like rock, I guess, like from the 60s. It is what it is. And I respect it for what it is. It's just not my jam.
Yeah. It is kind of like Dylan. It is kind of like a weird evolution of what Dylan was doing when Dylan like really kind of went rocky.
He does sound like
electric.
Dylan's voice, but in tune. That's exactly like, that's a pretty good, like there's a similar tonality.
There is a weird, I mean, I never thought about
Until they
Bob
said it.
Dylan and Tom Petty, but I kind of hear it now.
I do hear it. Yeah.
In a weird kind of way, but yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's see
should
what
we-
Rex has to say on that one.
Oh, yes, let's do that.
So Rex says, Jeebus, here's another legit record that has a ton of hits. How many is that by now? 3? I call it Cosmo's Effect because of Cosmos Factory. Incredible album. What Are You Doing in My Life was a surprisingly great song. Love it. Yeah.
You did love that.
Mhm.
You guys both love that. I didn't.
Well, I mean, I was kind
Still
of,
didn't. You
I'm
haven't
not
changed
like
my
too
mind.
far off from you. Like I said that right off the bat. Like it's not my favorite Tom Petty by any means, you know, but
Yeah.
I respect it because of the fact that it brought him to the forefront and allowed him to do what he eventually did. I mean, if this album wasn't so successful, he probably wouldn't have been able to spin off and have such a big solo career.
Big solo
you know what
career.
I mean?
And I will say this: I love Refugee. I love Here Comes My Girl. I love Even the Losers, and I love Don't Do Me Like That. All of the radio hits. They're
Yeah.
excellent.
I think G has to be the best song off the album, though.
It is.
You think so?
It is. I mean, I put them next to that. I put 4 stars next to it. So next week.
Next week,
Next week.
230. We have Rihanna, Anti.
Mhm. At 229, one of my favorite things of all time, another Ultimate Collection. Those are my favorite.
Mike loves anthologies.
This one is Patsy Cline.
We call him Mr. Anthology.
Luckily, Patsy Cline died at 30.
Luckily. Did she really?
Yeah,
That was a
it
fucked up
says
thing
right
to say, dude.
I mean, I'm sorry, Patsy. I didn't mean it like that. I just meant it like at least your
Don't do me like
anthology
that
can't-
is what she's saying right now.
Okay.
Okay, 228. We have De La Soul. The album is De La Soul is Dead.
Jesus, everybody's dying on us. 227, Little Richard's album. Here's Little Richard.
And 226, Derek and the Dominoes, Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs.
Woohoo! Something to get excited about. Can we preview the
Despite Eric
next show
Clapton
after
being a
that?
giant asshole.
And an anti-vaxxer.
Yeah, and a racist.
Fuck, Jesus.
Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't listen to that one.
Yeah, we're skipping that one. Do you really want to preview the next show?
I actually want to preview the show after that, though, because the show after that,
You're really excited about
it's a fucking
Okay, let's do it.
Damn it, this thing rips. Okay, so the week after that, we have Wilco's Yankee Hotel Foxtrot at 225.
224 is Dixie Chicks Fly.
At 223 is Imagine from John Lennon.
Oh, shit.
I know.
222, we have Madonna, Ray of Light.
And then 221 is Rage Against the
Oh,
Machine,
man.
self-titled.
That
Yeah.
is an exciting week.
That
We gotta
fucking
get a
week
guest for
rips,
that week.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, that week
That's a
rips.
big one.
Because even that Madonna Ray of Light, like Ray of Light's a really good record, and I don't know shit about the Dixie Chicks, but I don't care. Not even the Dixie Chicks could fuck up that week.
I think they'll be good. I bet that'll be a good record.
You think so?
They're talented. That's
I've
for
never
sure.
listened to the Dixie Chicks at all.
I don't really. I mean, I've definitely heard snippets, and I mean, they have a good version of Landslide. But you've heard that, I'm sure, right?
I've heard most covers of Landslide. My favorite being the Smashing Pumpkins. If I'm not going to get
Damn,
the
I didn't even
original.
know there was a version.
What? Pisces Iscariot. Yeah, it's a really good version.
Okay.
Mhm.
But yeah, the chicks are talented.
Nice.
So
Well, listen. Next week, notwithstanding, we got really good stuff coming up.
yes, indeed. So thanks, Aiden, for joining
Thanks,
us.
Aiden.
Yeah, it was a great time.
Yes.
Well, keep growing babies, and we'll have you on again. And you should look into the future and see if you want. 'Cause if you do, we'd love to have you back.
Heck yeah, I'd love to.
All right.
Cool. Well, thanks for listening, guys.
Mm-hmm.
As always, we appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
Until next time. Bye bye. Bye bye.
This list sucks. This list sucks. This list sucks. This list sucks. It sucks.